Well, Merry Christmas, everyone. I just had a moment of panic. I was looking at the card and I was looking, the first Christmas Eve service is December 20th. That's 11 days away. I'm like, wow, that's coming up. You know, can I clarify that particular service? So Christmas Eve's on a Monday. The 20th is actually the previous Thursday. We stuck that one there for all of you that are going to be going out of town. I was just talking to a guy and he said, yeah, I'm going to miss the Christmas Eve service because I'm going out of town. But make sure that Thursday one is actually going to be missed, because if you're here for that, you'll want to be a part of that. I am so excited about the thrill of hope. I'm also very excited to continue our series, Midnight Clear, because we're studying the shepherds. Do you remember? The shepherds are so often overlooked, but we're diving in. In fact, we're spending 5 weeks looking at those 13 verses in Luke 2, because we're convinced that those shepherds were wrecked by what they saw, by what they heard, what they learned, what they experienced that first Christmas. Wrecked in the most beautiful way, and we want those truths to transform our lives as well. So we're kind of going back in time, joining those shepherds and saying, what did you go through? Let's join you in it. And we now come to a message entitled, Peace on Earth. Friends, the Corona Beer Company was in trouble. They, years ago, were noticing that they sold a lot of beer during the summer, but their sales plummeted in the winter. And they realized that their beer had become associated with summer beach kind of stuff. But when the snow and the slush came around, no one was buying their beer. So you know what? This Mexican company hired a marketing firm out of Chicago. They said, teach us how to sell beer in the winter. And they at first thought, what you need to do is teach us how to separate our identity from the beach. But these Chicago marketers came back and said, no, you don't want to separate your identity from the beach. You want to teach winter people that they can have a little beach right where they're at. And thus came the Find Your Beach campaign, which we've all seen commercials, this crazy notion that somehow by having a sip of their beer, you will magically be transported to some tropical paradise. You've seen it. You know, the guy's trudging through the snow and the storm, and he has an idea. I need a Corona. And so he goes into an establishment and sits down and all of a sudden, magically, there he is on the beach. This concept is quite theologically profound, and I'd like to explore it with you. The marketers are actually onto something biblical. What I mean by that is this notion of beach tranquility being available even in the chaos of normal life. A little vacation every day. Is that possible? Yes, it is. It's biblical. Now, Corona beer is not the answer. The answer is the Christmas child. We're going to study how this peace can be on earth in our lives all the time. You ready? We're looking at Luke 2, verse 13. It says this, suddenly a great company of the heavenly host appeared with the angel. Let's stop there for a moment. A great company of heavenly hosts. This is a mob of angels. And it says, appeared with the angel. If you recall, so far in this drama, there's only been one angel. I have a theory here that God wanted this huge choir of angels to be there, but he knew that if I bring all of them at once, the shepherds will pass out and die maybe. And so let's bring them in gradually. We'll start with one angel. Once they've kind of gotten a little used to one angel, then we'll call in the whole choir. And so sure enough, they've heard from the one angel the announcement of the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem, which they were outside of at that moment, and some truth about this birth. And then this choir appears, and I'd like to, challenge you to imagine what it would be like on a night sky, suddenly for the whole sky to be lit up with these angelic beings of stunning beauty and undeniable passion as they sing of their great excitement regarding this momentous moment. The Messiah, God incarnate, come to save the souls of humanity. I mean, those angels felt the passion. They were honored to get this assignment And I'm sure their excitement was contagious for those shepherds, maybe for you. Well, what did they say? What did they sing? Well, it says that suddenly a great company of the heavenly hosts appeared with the angel, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven." That's praise right there. If any moment God deserved to be praised, this moment of Christ's birth is the greatest. But then the angels shift, their song shifts from praise to God to pronouncement of peace. Look what it says. "And on earth, peace to those on whom his favor rests." On earth, peace. Friends, this concept of peace is profound. The announcement of peace is huge. You say, why are you getting so excited about peace? Well, you may be aware that the Hebrew word behind our English peace is the Hebrew word shalom. Shalom. You may have heard Jewish people today greet each other with that term. I've been to Israel a number of times, and I've experienced it. When they say hi to somebody, shalom. When they say goodbye to somebody, shalom. It's just shalom. It's such a big deal. And then we discover that to Jesus, shalom was a big deal. Jesus said, "Shalom I bring to you," but not the shalom the world knows. My shalom. In fact, when Jesus greeted people, you can find this in the Gospels. We find Jesus said, "Peace be with you." What he's saying is shalom. Or when he was saying goodbye to people, he'd say, "Go in peace." He's saying shalom. Shalom, this peace of God is huge in this journey with God. In fact, we must focus on it, because if we're not living the shalom, we are missing something major in the Christian life. So what is it? Shalom, peace. You may assume that it says, well, peace on earth is an absence of war. It's an absence of relational conflict. Those could be embedded in the concept of shalom, but shalom goes far deeper than just external peace. Shalom points to internal peace. We just saying, "It is well with my soul." That's a shalom statement. Peace is a sense of completeness, of wholeness, of well-being, of tranquility, of serenity. Have you felt it? So often the anxiety and the worry and the stress and the striving, cause this internal unrest. Shalom is when all of that is pulled away in a fullness of heart and joy and serenity. Here, maybe a beach might help. So let's put a picture of a beach up. Let's practice together, shall we? Imagine with me that you're just lying on this beach and you hear the seagulls and hear the water gently lapping on the sand, and you smell the tropical air, and I know I'm causing you to go crazy here. Some of you, you're sipping on your lemonade. In moments like this, maybe you've felt that shalom. We go on vacation to get shalom. We're trying to get away from all of the stressors and problems. Here's one of the issues, and that is that if you've got a moment of shalom on the beach, all of a sudden you find that your problems have followed you on vacation. And your mind starts thinking about the issues that you've got, and you're like, no, don't think about work. Don't get this. And it's a battle, is it not? And the other problem with vacation is eventually you have to leave and go back home to reality. But is there a way in reality to find the shalom? Let me return to our verse. I'll remind you, the announcement was on earth peace, or peace on earth. And you do know that the earth is messed up big time. We live on a fallen planet that is filled with suffering and hurt and illness and disappointment and family conflicts and disasters of every sort. And so in this mess, Jesus is supposed to bring shalom. The angel says you can have shalom on earth. That's the promise. It's stunning. But you don't need to go to paradise to try to have some moment where you shake all the reality out of your mind and have this glimpse of peace. That's not the shalom we're going after. We're going after the shalom that's in the midst of the storm. And friends, that is what's available. And you say, well, then how do I get it? Because I want it. Good question. I would remind you that the verse says on earth, shalom, to everybody? Nope, only to some. To those on whom his favor rests. Friends, only those with the favor of God get the shalom. Well, what does the word favor mean? This is so important because peace and favor are knit together here. The favor of God. If we say God favors me, you're like, that kind of sounds like a favorite, that God has favorites. Yeah, he kind of does. It's interesting. The word means the delight of God on some people. Or other versions say, God is pleased with us. It's the approval of the Lord. There are certain people who have a special place in God's heart. And you're like, come on. In the Old Testament, back in Exodus 19:5, God announced to the Israelites, he said, though the whole world is mine in one sense, you people are to me my treasured possession. There are some people that have a favored status with God, and they're the only ones who are promised the shalom. You're like, I don't like God having favorites. This isn't fair. Here's where it gets fair. Every single human being is invited to be a part of the fellowship of the favored. Do you realize that? The invitation goes out to all. Get right with God, and you will be one of his favored people. In fact, that's what this is talking about. It's distinguishing between the unfavored, those who aren't reconciled to God, right with him, and those who have been reconciled to him. So now we know that reconciliation comes through the cross of Christ. If you're a Christian, you're favored. If you're a Christian, you've been right with God, and you're one of those who are promised the shalom. And so, friends, it's so important to know that God invites everybody to receive Christ and become part of this. It says in John 1:12, to all who receive Jesus, to everyone who believes in his name, they will be given the right to be children of God. So the invitation rings out now, as it always has. Be reconciled to God. It's an act of grace. All you got to do is ask. He will forgive you, and that relationship will be restored, and you'll be favored. And it's fun being favored. To say, yeah, the Lord, he loves me. I'm special in his heart. What can I say? It's like with my son Jake, I have this evening tradition where I'll pray with him, and then after prayer, I'll say the same thing every night. I'm like, Jake, do you know if God lined up all the boys in the whole world and invited me to pick anyone to be my son, I'd pick, and he always interrupts me, you'd pick me, I know this one, Dad, and he acts irritated by it, but he loves it. All right, we're good. And Jake just beams because he loves being favored status. And friends, when you realize that you have favored status with God, that I'm his treasured possession, what can I say? He adores me. In fact, I would argue that the peace and the favor connection is found in a couple things. Favor tells us who gets the peace. Favor tells us how we get the shalom. I believe that we've got to enter into our status as God's favored sons and daughters to connect with the shalom. Some of you are nodding because you see the connection right away between favor and peace. Others of you are like, I don't get it. Why would entering into realization of our favored status result in shalom? Well, I want to make it crystal clear by turning to a second verse that deals with peace and favor. Notice how they're both here in Luke 2. And now as I flip to Numbers 6, verses 24 to 26, favor and peace. There they are, linked again. Ironically, this is 1,000 years before the angels announced the birth of Christ. And so this connection between shalom and favor has been true, in ancient times past, at the time of Christ, and still today. And this particular statement or promise is what's called the priestly blessing, given back in the days of Moses. Sometimes the Aaronic blessing. Aaron was the head of the priests, and these words were given to him and his children to announce over the people of God. Let me read it. It says, "May the Lord bless you and protect you. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. May the Lord show his favor and give you his peace." May the Lord show you his favor. May he give you the shalom. Favor and shalom, there they are, knit together. What's great about this priestly blessing, though, is that it elaborates a little more on what it means to be favored by God. When you belong to him, when he says, man, my approval is on you, my delight is on you, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at what it means. And let's start by highlighting this first phrase here. May the Lord bless you and protect you. When you belong to him, when you're his favored child, you know what you got? You got provision and protection. Provision is God provides all you need. That's what it means when it says, may the Lord bless you. May the Lord bless you with everything you need. When God says, hey, you're mine, when he says, I got you, what he means is, listen, I'll take care of you. I'll give you everything you need. Now, I didn't say everything you want. Some of you, if I'm the Lord's favorite, then Lord, bless me with $10 million today. Maybe he will, probably he won't. That's not how he rolls. What he does is he blesses people with all that they need. You know, the Bible says that we are the sheep, he's the shepherd, that we, the sheep, won't be in want because the shepherd will meet all our needs. This is a great promise of God. He said, man, I got you. You'll see this phrase here, nothing to worry about. One of the great reasons we don't have shalom is we're worried about, will I have enough? If you're the Lord's, he's got you. He will bless you with everything you need. Now, it may be tough. He may bless you with everything you need to get through a hard time, but he'll bless you, and you can rest. The Lord's got me. I don't know how we're going to make ends meet. I don't know how this is going to work, but we're going to walk in obedience to him, and we will see him come through. Relax. Enjoy the shalom. Nothing to worry about. Not only the provision, also the protection. Here God says, it's a scary world out there. Get behind me, God says. I gotcha. I am your protector. Other places in the Bible said there's a hedge of protection around God's people. And you say, well, if God's protecting me, that would make it sound like nothing bad would ever get to me. Now, we may say, Lord, don't let anything bad get to me. And God says, listen, I'm going to do that. There's going to be a moment when no hardship, evil, bad thing gets to you. It's called heaven, and we're going to be there soon, but we're not there now. We're on planet Earth, and yes, all people, including God's children, experience hardship. But the good news is, as with God as protector, nothing will get to us unless God in his infinite love and wisdom sees that we can handle this. If cancer comes our way, it's not just because I have bad luck. God said, Jeff, it's time. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. And so we rest knowing that we're not on our own. He says we're his favorite kids, and as a result, he provides and he protects in a way where we can say, I don't know what's coming, but I got nothing to worry about because he's got his eye on me. You see that? I saw this in a friend of mine just recently. This poor friend, he's a friend of mine out of town, and he's living a nightmare. Imagine this. Things were going well. In fact, he was being promoted at work. He got promoted so high that he had access to the books and seeing the financials of the company at another level. And as he looked, he discovered that there were practices that were immoral, illegal. And he came to his superiors and he said, guys, look what I found. This is terrible. We got to stop this. And the bosses were minimizing it, saying, oh, don't worry about it, it's how we roll. And there was a real battle as my friend tried and was fighting to bring change. And as he was fighting, an audit was done that uncovered this practice, exposed this practice, and the company got in major trouble. You know what they did? The higher-ups turned on my friend, the very guy trying to bring about change, and used him as the scapegoat. They just recently fired him and blamed him so bad that not only is the company being sued, he as an individual is being sued too. I mean, it's a nightmare. So he and I got together for lunch. I knew he was in a crisis. I said, let's do lunch. And I'm over a table with him, and I'm like, you're doing better than I would think you'd be doing, considering you don't have a job and you have kids to feed. And he said, Jeff, it is the weirdest thing. I should tell you, my friend is a newer believer, so he's still trying to figure out the dynamics going on in him. He said to me, the old self would be freaking out right now. I mean, this is a nightmare. He said, all I can tell you is that like God is showing up in my life, and I hear God, not audibly, but in my heart, just telling me, I got this. You're going to be okay. Walk with me in this. And he said, it's the strangest thing. My friend said, I got peace. Like even now, I've got this peace. I'm like, he's got the shalom. He knows the Lord will bless me. He'll take care of me and provide in the right job with the right way in the right time. And when I go to court and everything, I'm not sure how it's going to turn out, but I've got a protector. He's there. And he's really, I got nothing to worry about because I've got God. Interesting. Shalom. Even on earth. But that's not all. Let's take a look at this line for a moment. May the Lord smile on you and be gracious to you. When you're a favored of the Lord, you know what else you've got? The smile of God. Have you ever felt God smile on you? Some of you have. Some of you have had that experience where you're like, you know what? God's not a fairy tale. God is real. More than being just real, God is present. More than being present, God is looking at me right now. More than just looking at me, he's smiling at me. He's beaming with delight. He just gets a kick out of me. Friends, the experience of the smile of God, his delight in us, is profound, powerful, at bringing shalom like nothing else can. Smiles in general, I don't know if you know how powerful a smile is, even a human smile. Scientists have studied the impact of a smile on the soul. In fact, there's a Harvard professor by the name of Dr. Edward Tronick who's done extensive study of the power of smile. And I wanted to show you just a short little video clip of one of his experiments.
Babies this young are extremely responsive to the emotions and the reactivity and the social interaction that they get from the world around them. This is something that we started studying 30, 40 years ago, when people didn't think that infants could engage in social interaction. In the still face experiment, what the mother did was she sits down and she's playing with her baby who's about a year of age.
I'm like a girl. Oh.
And she gives a greeting to the baby gives a greeting back to her.
Yeah.
This baby starts pointing at different places in the world, and the mother's trying to engage her and play with her. They're working to coordinate their emotions and their intentions, what they want to do in the world. And that's really what the baby is used to. And then we ask the mother to not respond to the baby. The baby very quickly picks up on this. And then she uses all of her abilities to try and get the mother back. She smiles at the mother. She points because she's used to the mother looking where she points. The baby puts both hands up in front of her and says, "What's happening here?" She makes that screechy sound at the mother, like, come on, why aren't we doing this? Even in this 2 minutes, when they don't get the normal reaction, they react with negative emotions, they turn away, they feel the stress of it. They actually may lose control of their posture because of the stress that they're experiencing.
Okay. I'm here. And what are you doing? Oh, yes. Oh.
Isn't that true? I mean, the science bears it out that God wired us. Little babies need the smile of their parents for their soul to have shalom, to be bursting with joy. Now listen, a little tidbit. We may grow up, we don't change. We may not express it as freely as a baby does, but we still need the smile of those who matter most to us. We all do. And when we don't have it, it is not well with our soul. And you know whose smile we need most of all? The King of Kings, the maker of all, our Heavenly Father. And when we tap into his smile and realize he's smiling at us, the soul bursts with the joy of the shalom that nothing else can bring. And when we're living devoid of knowledge and experience of God's smile, we're missing something we were made for. There's a gap in our soul because we were created and wired to know the smile of God. And so, friends, we must press in to this friendship with God, to where we little by little are knowing of his joy, his love, his smile. Now, some of you are like, oh, that sounds great, Jeff. I want to experience God's smile, but I'm not smile worthy, some of you would say. I know me, and I know what kind of junk I have in my life. And listen, God being delighted in me would be nice, but I know I'm not delightful. I'm a mess. Friends, I think I need to remind you of how this phrase ends. May the Lord smile on you, what? And be what? Gracious. Do you know what grace is? Grace is undeserved love. The very notion of God's affection is based on this otherworldly dynamic called grace, undeserved affection. So often love and delight is based on the lovable, the beauty of the beloved. But not so with grace. It's not about the beauty of the beloved, but it's about the heart of the lover. And God has this unique capacity to smile and delight in those who are his through the cross of Christ, who aren't impressive, but he just smiles and delights in them. I've got a new friend from our church who's also a newer Christian, and he's been wrestling with this concept of God's undeserved love for him, trying to believe it, trying to experience it. Struggling, believing, he's like, Jeff, I got a lot of junk in my life. And he's like, why would God delight in me? And we had a fascinating conversation this week. He said, I have this thought that keeps coming to mind regarding this undeserved love thing. He goes, I keep on thinking of when I became a dad. He said, when my wife gave birth to our firstborn, he said, the intensity of emotion I felt, he said, it just overcame me. It surprised me. I've felt love of other kinds, but never this fatherly love, just like a wave in my soul as I looked at this little child. And he says, and then I think about it, I'm like, what has this kid done to deserve this love? At those early stages, the only thing he accomplished was to make a mess in his diaper. And he says, yet I just couldn't stop loving him. And my friend said, I think God made parents that way to help them understand God's love for us. And I'm like, brilliant. That's right. God says, trust me in this. I look at you and I am overcome with bursting affection for you, even though all you accomplish is make a mess. It's grace. And so, friends, the good news is when you're his, when you're in that favored status, he is smiling on you and delighting on you every moment of every day. It's all grace. Now, that leads to this other statement here. You got nothing to prove. One of the great killers of shalom is this frantic, desperate striving to prove we're worthy of a smile. People are striving to prove they're a success and not a failure. I've got to succeed at work to prove my worth. I've got to have money so I'm not a bum. I got to be fit so that I'm attractive. I got to be a good parent so I'm not a failure. I got to be spiritual. Some people read their Bible in an effort to impress God, or pray, or go to church, or serve in church, all striving to earn God's smile. What are you striving for? If you're a Christian, you've got it. You've already got the prize. His smile is never and never will be based on your worthiness. It's always been a grace thing. You've got it. Stop striving. There's a passage in the Psalms that says, cease striving. Every day we're on this treadmill trying to prove we're not a failure, and God says, stop it. You say, but people don't think who cares what they think? It's what he thinks that matters. And right now he's beaming on you. Receive it. You know what this nothing to prove reminds me of? My niece is a senior in high school, and she just got the email of her dreams. You know what I'm talking about? She had applied to this college. It was her first choice college, and she's been waiting on pins and needles every day, checking her email to see if she got the rejection, acceptance. And I said, tell me what happened. She said, well, I saw that it was from the college, and I was so afraid to push the button and open the email. I did it, and it said, congratulations. And she said, my heart just soared. And she's got the shalom right now. She's just walking a foot taller, you know. Do you remember? Some of you can remember this dynamic. Suddenly, the stress of high school changes overnight when you get that college acceptance email. You show up that last semester at high school, and you're just, hey, how's it going? I'm good. You know, the teacher's like, we got a big test coming. You're like, poof, like I care. I'm in, you know, in this life. It's a glorious way to live. Friends, as Christians, we're all seniors in high school, second semester. That's our lot in life. We got the acceptance letter. We're in. I got nothing to prove. I may live for Jesus, but I'm not trying to earn his smile. I got his smile. I'm doing this out of gratitude and thanks. Friends, this shalom is crushed when you're worrying, when you're striving. But if you realize that you are favored, that you have nothing to worry about because you're his, he's got you. And when you realize you have nothing to prove, he's smiling already, you're his treasured child, you can live the shalom. I want it so bad. I want to say that my way I roll is shalom. I can't say that yet. Some shalom gets chased away all too often. But I want every night to go to bed and lay in bed with peace and joy, say goodnight, Father, and enjoy the shalom. I want to wake up in the morning and just go, another day, God, glorious day. I got the shalom again. Let's do this life together. I want shalom to be my way I roll. I want shalom for you. I want so bad for you to enjoy shalom more and more and more and more. This is God's plan. In fact, as I say, I want shalom for you, you know what it reminds me of? I discovered that some more liturgical churches, they have an element in their service called the passing of the peace. Some of you came from traditions where they did this. People will stand and they'll turn around, they'll shake each other's hand, and they'll say, peace be with you, and peace be with you. I always thought it was weird. Now I understand that they're saying essentially, my friend, I hope, I pray you get the shalom. That's what they're saying. May you taste the shalom of God this day, tomorrow, this week. May your life be marked by shalom.